fix it or do it the same for next time. But here we have chapter 4. Mystery. What does it say? Mystery yarn. Interesting. He looks like he's raking the leaves, so what could be happening in this chapter? One fall afternoon, Homer was whistling a little tune and raking up leaves from Uncle Ulysses. Oh yeah, I forgot. I didn't even search up how to say his name. Raking up leaves from Uncle Ulysses' front lawn and trying to decide whether to ask for his pay in cash or in dough. Oh, donuts from Uncle Ulysses' lunchroom. He just finished raking the leaves into a neat pile at the curb and was about to go find a match when the sheriff turned the corner in his car. "Hi, Sheriff. Do you have a match?" shouted Homer. "Sure thing, Homer," said the sheriff as his car jerked to a stop. "That's a right smart pile of leaves you got there. Learning beeves. I mean, burning leaves. Sure smell nice, don't they?" I feel like the sheriff is like, oh, is he? No. That's not dyslexia, is it? Because I was gonna say, I feel like this man's like high or drunk or something. Because he keeps like mixing up. But then again, I don't know. He said as he struck a match on his seat and lit the pile. "Yep, wait a minute. They burn leaves. I mean, burning leaves sure smell nice, don't they?" he said as he struck a match on his seat and lit the pile. "Yup, Sheriff, and burning leaves always make me think of football and school," said Homer. "And the county fair," added the sheriff. That'll be along in a couple weeks. I'm gonna exhibit my chickens again this year. My white leghorns took a blue ribbon last fall. Well, I'll be seeing you, Homer," added the sheriff. Then he flicked a bit of ash off his sleeve, because he had his best Sunday suit on, climbed into his car, and drove to the end of the block. Homer watched while the sheriff got out of his car, straightened his tie, and started up Mrs. Terwilliger's front steps. Thank you. Looked forward to Miss Terwilliger. Miss Terwilliger, as anyone from Cinderburg can tell you, is one of the town's best known and best loved citizens. She runs knitting classes and in years past has taught almost every woman in Cinderburg how to knit. She's a familiar sight on Sundays, holidays, and at social functions, dressed in a robin's egg blue dress, which she had knit years ago when she first started her knitting classes. In fact, Oh, we could call him Uncle Telly, actually. Homer's Uncle Telly lived all by himself in a trim little house near the railroad. Homer's mother always said it's a shame that Uncle Telly had to live alone because he would make an ideal husband for some fine woman like Miss T. Aunt Aggie would always answer, but I don't know how many fine women could put up with his carryings on. By carryings on, Aunt Aggie meant Uncle Telly's hobby of collecting strings. Yes, Uncle Telly was a string saver, and he had saved string for years and years. He had quite a lot of it too, and every Thursday afternoon he would take all of the pieces of string that he had collected during the week and wind them up on his huge ball out in the garage. Oh, that was one of Homer's jobs on Thursdays, helping Uncle Telly and wind string, because Uncle Telly had a bit of a rheumatism of late. What does that mean? You see, the ball of string was getting too large to wind without a lot of stooping and reaching. Y'all want to see what Uncle Telly and Homer look like winding up the yarn or the string? I need to make sure it's in frame. Okay. That's what they look like. They look goofy. Well, actually, no. Homer looks a bit goofy. Man, looks like he's just on top of a ball. Uncle Telly greeted Homer at the door. Hello, Homer. We've got a lot to wind today. That's good, Uncle Telly. I brought a few pieces from home, too. They went out to the garage, and as Uncle Telly looked at his ball of string, he said with pride, another 1/4 inch, and it'll be 6 feet across. Biggest ball of string in the world. Jeez. Well, I don't know, Uncle Telly, said Homer. Freddy's been helping the sheriff wind his string down at the jail. And he says the sheriff's ball of string is just about 6 feet across, too. I've heard tell that the sheriff winds his string loose, so's the ball looks bigger. Mine's wound tight, said Uncle Telly, poking the ball, and it's a lot longer than the sheriff's ball of string will ever be. Yep, I guess you're right, said Homer, and he began winding the string while Uncle Telly tied the pieces together in double knots. Wind it tight, reminded Uncle Telly. Don't let anybody say that my string isn't wound right. I'll have none of this loose, sloppy sheriff kind of winding on my ball of string. Just as Homer and Uncle Telly were about finished, there was a knock on the garage door, and when Uncle Telly opened the door, there stood the sheriff and Judge Shank. Good day, Telemachus, said the judge. Howdy, Telly, said the sheriff, trying to peer over Uncle Telly's shoulders and see the ball of string. Males are funny. Competition is hilarious. Howdy, Judge, said Uncle Telly, and scowling at the sheriff, he said, I didn't expect you to be calling on me on a Thursday afternoon. Ahem, Telemachus, said the judge. I just happened to stop in the knitting shop to drive my wife home when I met the sheriff. As you know, Telemachus, it is necessary to cut down expenses at the fair this year, and we cannot afford to have the trotting races that we have always had. The sheriff, who like myself is on the fair board, and who, like yourself, is a string saver, has suggested that he and you, Telemachus, enter into an event that could be held on the racetrack and provide the diversion that the trotting races have. Yup, interrupted the sheriff. I challenge you to unroll your string around the racetrack just to prove once and for all that I've got more string than you have. Yes, to put it bluntly, that is the situation, Telemachus. I appeal to your sense of said the sheriff. In that case, if I win, you'll have to leave town on Sundays and give Miss Turwill a chance to make up her mind to marry me. It's a deal, said Uncle Tully, and he and the sheriff shook hands for the first time in years, just to clinch the bargain, of course. Very well, gentlemen, grinned the judge. I shall judge this contest, and at our earliest convenience we will draw up a set of rules pertaining. Good day, Telemachus. Goodbye, Telly, said the sheriff. Sorry I can't stay, but I got an appointment. Uncle Telly slammed the door on the sheriff and went back to tying knots. We'll see, he said, and pulled the next knot so hard that he broke the string. Golly, Uncle Telly, said Homer, that's going to be a swell contest. I hope you win the prize. Prize or no prize, we'll see who's got the most, said Uncle Telly. And Miss Turwill will get a chance to make up her mind. That woman certainly can cook, sighed Uncle Telly with a dreamy look. Then he busied himself with his knots and said, Now mind you, Homer, wind it tight. In the Friday night edition of the Cinderberg. I'm sorry, these accents they're just crazy. In the Friday night edition of the Cinderberg Bugle, I think it's Bugle, Homer read a long article on the county fair and a special announcement about the contest to determine the world's champion string saver. And then the rules that Judge Shank had drawn up. Each contestant may appoint an assistant to help with the maneuvering of his ball of string. The balls of string shall be unwound, i.e. rolled around the county fair racetrack in a counterclockwise direction, starting from the judge's booth in front of the main grandstand. The ball of string reaching around the racetrack the greatest number of times shall be regarded as the winning string, and that string's owner shall be declared winner of the prize and of the titles of the world's champion string saver. The string shall be unwound for 2 hours every afternoon of the week of the fair, starting at 2 o'clock. Homer read the rules and noticed that nothing was mentioned about the gentleman's agreement between the sheriff and Uncle Tully, but that sort of news travels fast in a town the size of Sunderberg, and it wasn't long before practically everybody knew that the winner was supposed to have the hand of Mr. Williger in marriage. In my defense, I think that she should just choose herself. Like, just because, they're out of town, I feel like they both just need to get out of town instead of her seeing them both. I think she just, needs to see none of them and then realize who she misses the most. Homer decided to go past Uncle Tully's house and see what he thought about the rules. Homer couldn't help wondering what a woman who could cook fried chicken so well and who was as clever as Miss Turwill would do if she heard about the agreement. Yeah, I feel like she wouldn't choose any of them just because of that. Homer found Uncle Tully trying to figure out how many miles of string were wound on his ball. He was multiplying 3.1416 by the diameter, and after multiplying by several figures, he asked Homer how many feet in a mile. 5,280, said Homer. Then Uncle Tully multiplied by 4. Then he turned to Homer and said, I figure there's enough string to go around the racetrack 100 times. Yep, 25 miles of string. Just let the sheriff beat that if he can. Look, Uncle Tully, here comes the judge and the sheriff again, and look who's with them, Mr. Williger. Uncle Tully opened the door before the judge had a chance to knock, and the judge puffed in, followed by the sheriff and Mr. Williger. Good day. Telemachus. We have a new contestant for the title of the world's champion string saver, puffed the judge. Hey, no, wait. Mr. Will blushed and giggled while Uncle Tully backed around to the other side of the room and raised his eyebrows at the sheriff in a way that asks, fashionable double-breasted Hollywood model suit. On the day before the fair started, Homer went up to Mr. Wills with the sheriff to see them take her ball string out of the house. Mr. Olson, the carpenter, had to take out the side of the house because the ball just wouldn't go through the door. The moving men rolled it out, and on the truck, the sheriff said, "That's as pretty a ball of string as I've ever seen. It's got a two-man's wound." I mean, a woman's massage. I'm sorry, but I love the sheriff. Just then, Uncle Telly walked up and agreed, "It's awful pretty, being all colors of the rainbow, but it ain't wound tight. It's so soft you can poke your fingers right into it." "Yes, but yarn stretches pretty much," said the sheriff, unhappily. "So she gonna stretch it all out is what I'm hearing." Oh wait, sorry. There was a picture here. I almost forgot. How dare I? That's them putting the ball of, I guess, yarn or string onto the truck. They had to take out a whole wall, bro. That's crazy. The day the fair opened, the grandstand was crowded and people stood halfway around the track when the contestants and their assistants started unrolling their string. Mr. Will's new pink dress and the sheriff's and Uncle Telly's new suits caused much favorable comment from the ladies present. Ooh la la. The men were more interested in the string, but as Homer's mother said, they could hardly tell one dress or suit from another. Mr. Wills and the sheriff and Uncle Telly were hot and tired after the first 2 times around the track, and so were their assistants, so the judge had some of the regular county fair employees roll the balls while the contestants rode around the track alongside in the sheriff's car. After the first afternoon's unrolling, Mr. Will's ball measured 5 foot 9 inches. The sheriff's measured 5 foot 8 3/4. Uncle Telly's 5'8". Uncle Telly and the sheriff were very uneasy. At the end of the second day, the sheriff's and Mr. Will's 5 feet. Uncle Telly 4. I don't think it's 5 foot 9 inches. I think it's like 5 yards and something. I can't even tell anymore. I don't know the signs for this, but anyways, at the end of the second day, the sheriff's and Mr. Will's, I guess, were 5 something yards maybe. Uncle Telly's was 4 with 11 something with 15 16th. That's a lot of numbers. Uncle Telly felt a little better, and so did the sheriff. So far, everything's kind of the same. Mr. Will is still winning. Sheriff is in second, and Telly's last. And it's not because they have like less string, right? I'm pretty sure it's just because some people be working a little bit slower than others, okay? Uncle T and the sheriff, each feeling confident, were taking it slow. They watched each other like hawks, and they unwound their string right up against the fence and checked up on each other's knots. They hadn't even gotten a quarter of the way around when Mr. Wills was at the halfway mark. Homer could see her walking right along wearing her robin's egg blue dress with the pink trim at the bottom, carrying her basket, the parasol, and the parasol to protect her from the autumn sun. The sheriff and Telly were halfway around, still checking every knot and stretching their string as tightly as they dared against the fence. Now Mr. Wills was 3/4 of the way around, still walking right along wearing her robin's egg blue blouse with the pink skirt, carrying her basket and the parasol to protect her from the autumn sun. Uncle Telly shouted at the 3/4 mark, "I've won!" The sheriff wound his string around Walnut, mine solid to the core. Everybody started shouting, "Hurrah for Telly! Hurrah for Telly, the world's champion string saver!" And after the noise had died down, Wait. I'm so lost. Practically every woman who was there that day knew how the clever Miss Turwell had won the championship. They enjoyed it immensely and laughed among themselves, but they didn't give away the secret because they thought all's fair in love. And besides, a woman ought to be allowed to make up her own mind. There might have been a few very observing men who, like Homer, knew how she won. What do you mean, how she won? Why am I so confused right now? I'm so confused. But they didn't say anything either, or maybe they just didn't get around to mentioning it before Mr. Will finally decided to marry Uncle Telly the following week. It was a grand wedding with the sheriff as best man. Uncle Telemachus and his new wife left for Niagara Falls, while the guests at the reception were still drinking punch and eating wedding cake and donuts, not to mention fried chicken. 'Cause she can cook that fried chicken. That was a Wandy Wandy, I don't know, that was a Wandy, oh, that was a Wandy date. That was a Wandy wedding. I mean, a dandy wedding, said the sheriff to Homer while polishing off a chicken breast. He looked at the wishbone and sighed. Then after a minute, he brightened and said, but they've asked me to dinner every Thursday night. You know, Homer, said the sheriff with a smile, they'll be a very happy couple going through life safe and string together. Yep, said Homer. I guess they're the undisputed champions now. Guess you're right, Homer. Nobody'll ever get so much string saved on one ball as they have. Heck, I think I'll start saving paper bags or bottle caps. I'm lost still, but here's the picture. And that is the end of chapter 4. Am I very confused with the end of that? Yes, I indeed am. If anyone understood that, please let me know in the comment section below, because my brain sometimes cannot understand things. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm glad that you stuck around for another What Are We Reading Wednesday, and of course we read chapter 4. I think we have 2 chapters left in the book, and then we'll be done. Yeah, 6 is the last chapter, so we have 2 more